All right. Here we go, about to go live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stop the Hate Program Fund Request for Application Workshop. We'll be giving a few more minutes, allow individuals to join on in. Thank you so much for your patience. Welcome, everyone, and happy Friday. My name is Gloria Earle, and my pronouns are she and her. I am the project manager working under the wonderful leadership of Marcela Ruiz, director of the California Department of Social Services Office of Equity. I would like to share that today's application workshop is being recorded and will be posted on the Stop the Hate Program Fund website once it is made accessibility compliant. Today's request for application workshop is being hosted by the CDSS Office of Equity, Civil Rights, Accessibility, and Racial Equity, also known as our CARE Office, in consultation with the Commission of Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs. We'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to show interest in the Stop the Hate Program grant opportunity. Additionally, many thanks to everyone that participated and provided valuable feedback during prior listening sessions. Before we begin today's workshop, I will like to go over accessibility features and general housekeeping for today's workshop. Next slide. Today's workshop accessibility features include American Sign Language and live captioning. The workshop is being held via Zoom, and we ask that everyone please be cognizant of your mute button to avoid unnecessary background noise during today's application workshop. We also ask that everyone use the chat field for questions only, and please refrain from having non-topic discussions in the chat field. We also encourage individuals to make note of questions prior to entering them into the chat box, being that many questions will be answered throughout today's workshop. We would like to thank those individuals that have already submitted questions. Know that we will address questions received today at the end if time permits. If time unfortunately does not permit, we will advise when and where questions will be answered and posted before ending today's workshop. Next, I would like to share the individuals involved in the administration of the Stop the Hate Program Fund, I apologize. First, I would like to introduce on the top right, Marcela Ruiz, Director of California Department of Social Services, Office of Equity. On the left is Maureen Keffer, Chief of the California Department of Social Services CARE Office. The bottom right is Gawia Yang, Executive Director of the Commission of Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs. And bottom left is me. Now we will transition to the overview of today's application workshop. During today's workshop, Gawia will be providing a high-level overview of the Stop the Hate Program Fund, the program structure, funding focus, priority populations, and program services. It will also then transition to Maureen, that will be providing a high-level overview of the Stop the Hate Program regions, service delivery model, grantees' responsibilities, eligible grant amounts, payment methods, and required eligibility criteria. I will quickly go over the request for application schedule, and Maureen will go over the required application checklist and provide a high-level overview of the insurance certificate requirements. I will be closing out the application workshop after briefly sharing application review and evaluation process, as well as the required application submission instructions. As previously mentioned, if time permits, we will answer questions entered in the chat field. And if questions require more research, we will be sure to advise and will provide a response after the workshop. So to get us started, I would like to transition the workshop over to Guia to kick us off with an overview of the Stop the Hate Program Fund.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Goia, and I am the Executive Director with the California Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs, which is a 13-member independent state commission. I'm glad to be here today to discuss the components of the RFA, and also just want to congratulate you all for your hard work to help us to get here today. The total amount for this grant program is $110 million over a 3-year period. With that, for fiscal year 2021 and 2022, $20 million is made available. This grant program will be available for qualified nonprofit organizations to provide support and services to victims and survivors of hate incidents and hate crimes, and to also facilitate hate incident or hate crime prevention and intervention measures. During the listening session, we heard a lot about the need for intervention, and so we wanted to ensure that that was also going to be made available. Applicants can apply to be a regional lead and or a program service provider. And we'll be going a little bit more into details on the roles and responsibilities of a regional lead and a program service provider later in today's session. Next slide. The way this program will be structured is that CDSS will be providing grant funds to 10 regional leads, and then the regional leads will then subgrant the funds to 4 to 16 program service providers, and then service providers will deliver the direct services and or implement community prevention and intervention programs. Regional leads, as mentioned earlier, can also serve as a service provider. I do also want to note that, this is a pilot. We're piloting something that's a little bit different in terms of the selection process, where CDSS will be selecting and announcing both the regional leads and the program service providers. CDSS will then advise the regional leads which program service providers they will be assigned to. Next slide. So the purpose and focus of this funding is to provide services for survivors of hate incidents and hate crimes and their families, to also facilitate preventative measures for communities who have experienced or at greatest risk of experiencing incidents of bias and hate crimes, and also to communities with intersectional marginalized identities and other factors that would increase the risk for experiencing bias and hate crimes. So that can include a combination of the intersectionality of racial, ethnic population with age, gender expression, sexual orientation, or other identities that would make the community more vulnerable to experiencing hate. So for example, low-income Asian American elder women population. If there's any questions regarding definitions of hate incidents, hate crimes, or populations served, please don't hesitate to drop them into the chat, and we will be sure to follow up with a FAQ. Next slide. So this funding will prioritize services for the following population: Asian Americans, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, Black African Americans, Native American and tribal communities, Latinx, Middle Eastern and North African, LGBTQ plus communities, and also religious minorities, including Muslim and Sikh communities. Next slide. So the program services will include, as mentioned earlier, direct services, prevention, and intervention services. And we'll go into a deeper dive on that. So for direct services may include the following, which is mental health and complementary health services, which includes traditional therapy and clinical counseling, as well as non-traditional mental health services. It also includes wellness and community healing, including culturally relevant practices informed by the community, and also responding to what the community specific needs would be. That would also really encourage community empowerment and develop individual and community-wide support system. Direct services also includes legal services, which can be legal consultation, which is like intakes, counsels, and providing advice, legal representation with administrative complaints, but this doesn't include civil complaints or litigation. The other aspect of direct services is the navigation, case management, and referral. We heard a lot from you all in terms of the need to ensure that there is some sort of funded navigation system where impacted individuals can be connected to relevant resources and services. So for example, connecting survivors directly to mental health programs and also legal programs, or enrolling them into a community intervention program. Next slide. So for the prevention services, these services may include programs that are art-based, or our cultural work programs that deepens understanding and empathy within a particular regional community, youth development programs, senior safety and ambassadors program, individual and community safety training and planning, other types of trainings like bystander trainings, and then also, ensuring that there's opportunities for multiple communities to do cross-racial building to ensure that impacted populations strengthen alliances and are promoting understanding and unity. Next slide. So for the intervention services, this can include outreach, which is disseminating relevant information regarding, what are hate incidents and what are hate crimes, as well as services and resources that are available to survivors. Other de-escalation techniques and trainings that can include educational workshops, know your rights. And I think, what we heard a lot during the listening session as well is community-centered approaches and systems that would really help to repair the harm at the community level and really address the hate incidents and hate crimes. So that includes, for example, conflict mediation and resolution programs, restorative and transformative justice programs, or programs that really help to cultivate accountability, healing, and also individual and community safety. And then lastly, also taking into consideration services that would also coordinate with local government and other institutional partners. And this is my last, this is my last slide. And also just want to note that lastly, program services also includes translation and interpretation, as well as activities and services to ensure that people with disabilities have access to these sort of services as well. So now I will pass it over to Maureen to take a deeper dive into the application.
Thanks, Goya, and sorry for my erratic slide advancing. I think I have an extra touchy mouse this morning. Before I go into the application itself, I just wanted to return to the concept of the regional leads for a moment, and let folks know that we will be awarding funds to up to 10 regional lead organizations that will be representing the following regions: Northern California. We have the Bay Area, which encompasses San Francisco, the East Bay, and the North Bay, and then a separate South Bay region covering Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. We have the Central Coast region, the Central Valley, Orange County as a region on its own, the Inland Empire, which includes San Diego, the border region, which includes San Diego and Imperial counties, as well as the Inland Empire, and then up to 2 regional leads for Los Angeles County, considering the size of the population to be served there. So zooming in a little bit on the service delivery model and the responsibilities of regional leads and program service providers. So organizations that are awarded funds as regional leads are going to be charged with subgranting funds to organizations selected by CDSS, as Goya mentioned earlier. So at this stage, the regional leads are not going to be involved in selecting their own subgrantees. However, we do anticipate that for future rounds of funding, the regional leads may be able to participate in the selection process. So initially, the regional leads will have to execute memoranda of understanding with 4 to 16 subgrantee organizations that are selected by CDSS. They'll be charged with ensuring quality controls for the services that are delivered. And perhaps most importantly, they'll be convening subgrantees, providing technical assistance and training on the services to be provided, as well as the reporting and administrative requirements. They'll be collecting budget reports, program reports from the subgrantees, and then consolidating those reports to submit to CDSS. And again, just a note, regional leads may also apply to be program service providers. So if an organization is awarded funds as a regional lead and a service provider, then they would also be responsible for providing their own service deliverables, direct services, prevention services, or intervention services, as Goyab described earlier. Additional program service, moving on to program service providers. These would be the subgrantees of the regional leads. These organizations would be responsible for the flip side of the MOU requirement, executing agreements with the regional leads that they've been assigned by CDSS, performing the services for which they're awarded funding. Again, these would be direct, prevention, or interventions, providing the necessary program and budget reports to the regional leads. These would be on schedules that are established by the regional lead to allow them to comply with the timeline set by CDSS for the overall reporting requirements. And they would be required to participate in the quarterly meetings scheduled by the regional lead for things like training and technical assistance. Let's look at the grant amounts for a moment. So the grant amounts for this round of funding for a 12-month service agreement can range from $50,000 up to $350,000. So regional leads may be awarded funding in the amount of $100,000 up to $350,000. And this, again, is not inclusive of the amounts that they would be subgranting to service providers. This would be only the funding that would account for their administrative costs and service costs serving as regional leads, as well as if they are awarded funds to provide services directly. This range would encompass the amount that they're awarded for those services. Program service providers may be awarded between $50,000 and $250,000 each. And again, those funds would then be added on to what is awarded to the regional leads for them to be able to subgrant to program service providers. In terms of payment method, it's important to note that this is not a reimbursement or a fee-for-service grant. The method of payment will be scheduled quarterly invoices, and funding is issued in advance. So CDSS will issue funds to regional leads on a quarterly basis, and the payment schedule, the invoicing schedule, can be found in the RFA. I'll turn it over to Gloria. Actually, this is me, isn't it? Apologies. So this is a sort of an overview of the RFA itself. The RFA was released on this past Tuesday, November 16th. Qualified nonprofit organizations can apply to provide one or more program services, or also apply to be regional leads. Only nonprofits that meet the minimum eligibility criteria will be considered. This is a competitive application process, so no one is guaranteed to be awarded funding. And finally, applicants will need to address in their applications all of the applicable questions. You'll need to submit a complete application and show how you will meet the Stop the Hate program priorities. Applications should be submitted via email, including the fillable PDF document that contains the RFA and application, as well as PDF versions of all of the relevant attachments. Speaking of eligibility status and the minimum eligibility criteria, for regional leads, the organizations must demonstrate 501c3 or 501c5 status, as well as be in good standing with the Secretary of State. They must demonstrate administrative capacity to administer subgrants, as well as at least 3 years of experience administering subcontracts or subgrants on behalf of the state of California, or experience administering grants or subgrants totaling over $1 million. They need to demonstrate at least 5 years of experience providing services to or funding community-based organizations working with the priority populations. You can reference the earlier slide where we described what those are, the priority populations, and they're also described in the RFA. And finally, in addition to the above 3 requirements, they need to show at least 3 years of experience providing anti-hate survivor services or prevention services, or funding CBOs who provide anti-hate survivor and or prevention services. Again, this is minimum eligibility for regional leads. The minimum eligibility requirements for Stop the Hate program service providers must also be a 501c3 or 501c5 organization, or be fiscally sponsored. Must have at least 2 years of experience working with the priority populations, and at least 1 year of experience providing anti-hate survivor services and or hate incident prevention services. Now I'll turn it over to Gloria.
Sorry about that, everyone. I am here. All right. As Maureen mentioned, the release of the RFA obviously was on Monday, November 16th. And of course, the application workshop is today, November 19th. Applications are due on December 17th, 2021, no later than 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can submit applications early if you'd like. However, December 17th at 5 p.m. is the definite cutoff. Tentative award announcement is scheduled for February 9th, 2022. And as noted here, that date is subject to change at the discretion of the California Department of Social Services. Service implementation period and the term for the services is from March 1st, 2022 through February 28th, 2023, with the actual grant term being from March 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023, which does also include the closeout period. Grant term, as mentioned, from March 1st through March 1st through 2022 through February 28th of 2023 is a total of 12 months. Now we will go ahead and transition the workshop back to Maureen so she can provide an overview of the Stop the Hate required application checklist.
Thanks, Gloria. So you may or may not have had a chance already to review the RFA. The second half of the RFA document is actually the application form. In addition to answering all of the required questions on the application form and submitting completed responses, you'll also be required to submit the following documents. These are also detailed within the RFA. So first is the project budget. This is included as Appendix 3 of the application, downloadable on the application website, the Stop the Hate Program application website. This is a fillable Excel spreadsheet, and you are welcome to add lines as needed to include budget items that are not covered. The second item that's required is a financial statement. So each organization that's applying for funding, whether as a regional lead or a program service provider, must submit a scanned copy of your most recent, complete, audited annual financial statements. And this has to be at least within the last 12 months. The third requirement, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on this, is the certificate of insurance. Applicants must submit a current proof of insurance coverage that meets CDSS's insurance requirements. And I see here, and we noted in the RFA that's published online, that what exhibit the requirements are detailed in is covered up. You can't see that it's actually Exhibit E. So we need to fix that formatting in the PDF, and our apologies. But if you open the document, the PDF that includes draft exhibits A through E on the Stop the Hate Program website, and you look to Exhibit E, you will find what the specific insurance requirements are. There may be questions about these requirements, and you are free to submit any specific questions about this to the Hate Incidents Unit inbox, which is hiu@dss.ca.gov, or you're welcome to leave a voicemail message on the phone number that is on the Stop the Hate Program website, and we can get back to you with more information about these insurance requirements. Please note that it is necessary to have active, valid insurance coverage at the time of entering into a grant agreement with CDSS. So it's important to ensure in advance that you're able to meet these requirements. The fourth item on the checklist is proof of 501c3 or 501c5 status. And there is a link to the IRS website where you can look up and download a copy of your valid proof of active 501c3 or 501c5 status. Next is proof of active legal business status from the California Secretary of State. And again, there is a link there to the Secretary of State website where you can download proof of your organization's active status or your fiscal sponsor's active status if you are fiscally sponsored. Next on the application checklist is proof of current charity status with the California Department of Justice. You can download, again, proof of your active status from the Department of Justice website, and the link is there on the screen and within the RFA. Requirement number 7 is a letter of approval from your organization's board of directors. So this is a letter signed by the chair of your board of directors stating that the board approves of your organization accepting or receiving funding from the Department of Social Services. This can be a very simple letter. It doesn't have to be extensive. And if you have questions about this letter of approval or how to obtain it, you're welcome to, again, submit a question to the HIU inbox. Number 8 is a form called the STD 204. This is a payee data record. This is a documentation of your organization's tax identification numbers so that your organization may receive funds from CDSS. Number 9 is an org chart showing your organization's current staffing. Again, this can be, this needs to be in PDF form. All of these documents need to be submitted in PDF. Appendix 1 of the application contains the applicant reference form. This is requesting 3 references who can speak to your organization's relevant experience in this area. And then finally, Appendix 2 to the application is the Stop the Hate Program work plan. This is a very basic work plan template that you can complete, outlining your plan for delivery of services. If an organization is applying to be both a regional lead and a program service provider, this plan would contemplate all of the activities toward both of those responsibilities as a sub-granting organization, as well as an organization delivering services. If you are only applying to be one or the other, obviously you would only include regional lead responsibilities if you're applying to be a regional lead, or only program service provider responsibilities if you're applying to be a program service provider. Application review process. Is this you, Gloria, or is this me?
It surely is me. Thank you, Maureen. So. Gotta share the love. Gotta share the love. All right. All Stop the Hate Program Fund applications that are received no later than the required due date and time will be screened by CDSS staff to determine completeness and eligibility. Please note that incomplete applications may not be considered. The evaluation of eligible applicants will be completed by a committee that will also include individuals from the California Department of Social Services and the Commission of Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs. Organizations that are selected will receive written notifications and be required to execute an agreement. As a side note, a draft agreement package, which are exhibits A through E, is available for your review on the Stop the Hate Program Fund website. Keep in mind that the example is a draft, therefore it is subject to change. It is highly encouraged that you begin reviewing the example draft agreement and review your calendar to schedule appropriate meetings and or initiate conversations to ensure all required signatures and approvals are received in a timely manner in order to avoid contract execution delays that could impact the service delivery and implementation time. Next, I will share the Stop the Hate application evaluation criteria. So the Stop the Hate Program Fund applicants will be evaluated based on elements previously mentioned by Maureen. Specifically, Does the applicant meet the threshold eligibility criteria? The organizational capacity, their expertise, and their program capacity. Reminder that all eligibility criteria, organizational capacity, level of expertise, and program capacity elements are all mentioned throughout the request for application and checklists. Now I will transition to the application submission instructions. To apply for the Stop the Hate Program Fund, all completed applications with applicable attachments must be emailed no later than 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on December 17th, 2021, as mentioned and listed in the Stop the Hate Program Fund application schedule. Applicants must use the fillable Stop the Hate request for application and additional documents listed on the Stop the Hate Program Fund website. Applications and all applicable attachments must be submitted in a PDF format. Altered forms will not be accepted. Applicants must send all required PDF documents via email to the Hate Incidents Unit inbox at hiu@dss.ca.gov. The email subject line must state FY, which is the abbreviation for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. RFA, Stop the Hate Program Fund. Incomplete or late applications may not be accepted. Next slide. Now we have roughly about 20 minutes, so we will go ahead and transition to the Q&A question and answer time. Participants, please note that we will try our best to get through as many questions as possible today. However, rest assured that all questions received today will be compiled, reviewed, and answered. Once questions and answers are finalized, they will be posted on the Stop the Hate Program Fund website. Additionally, after today's workshop, applicants may continue to submit questions throughout the application period by sending an email to the Hate Incidents Unit inbox at hiu@dss.ca.gov. Questions received throughout the application period will be answered and posted to the Stop the Hate Program Fund website on a weekly basis. However, questions will no longer be accepted after close of business on Monday, December 13th, 2021. There again, questions will no longer be accepted as of close of business on Monday, December 13th, 2021. The final questions received as of December 13th, 2021 will be uploaded onto the website on Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. Keep in mind that if you do experience some technical issues with the required forms, please call and leave a message, a detailed message for a callback at the 916-653-1334. And this number, as well as the email address, is available on the Stop the Hate Program Fund website. So we will go ahead and transition to our first question. First question being, will the PowerPoint be made available for us today? The event today is being recorded, so it will be available on the website. It hasn't been determined, Maureen, if we will go ahead and also publish the PowerPoint as well.
Yeah, we hadn't decided that, but if folks would like a copy of the PowerPoint, we can also upload that to the Stop the Hate Program website.
Okay. Second question, I think we've probably already answered how to be qualified to be a regional lead, which is information that's also in the RFA
Yeah, Gloria, if you want, I can go back to that slide and review that really quickly if it would be helpful. To qualify as a regional lead, again, an organization has to be have either 501c3 or 501c5. Both of those are profit status with the IRS, and be in good standing. This isn't on the slide, but it is in the RFA, be in good standing with the California Secretary of State. Must demonstrate the capacity to administer subgrants and the experience having done so. So that's at least 3 years of experience administering subcontracts or subgrants on behalf of the state of California. Or if you don't have experience administering state subgrants or subcontracts, experience administering grants or subgrants totaling over $1 million. Have at least 5 years of experience working with or funding CBOs who work with the priority populations, and at least 3 years of experience providing anti-hate survivor prevention services or funding CBOs that provide those services. So essentially, to be a regional lead, we are looking for organizations with experience working directly in the hate incident space, working directly with the priority populations, or who have more extensive experience funding organizations who provide those kinds of services.
Great, thank you, Maureen. If an organization applies for a regional lead position and is not selected, will that application be moved to the general pool?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I can field that one too. So the pool is the same. All applications are being reviewed at the same time. If an organization applies to be a regional lead and a program service provider, they'll be evaluated for both of those functions. And if they're not selected as a regional lead, they are still eligible to be selected as a program service provider.
Great, thank you. Another question, if we have collaborative partners in a region who would like to apply together, will we be allowed to apply together?
I think we can provide a follow-up answer to that question on the Stop the Hate website. The RFA doesn't speak to the possibility of collaborative applications. Organizations, the application is built for one organization to apply for funding, but we can provide further guidance about that or further detail on the Stop the Hate program website. So stay tuned for
that. A question came through is, where would you consider the Sacramento area in your regional breakdown? And I believe they're Northern California.
Yeah, that's right. So you can see the list of the regional breakdowns in the RFA. There are check boxes next to each county that's included underneath the broader regional header. And Sacramento County is considered part of Northern California for purposes of this program.
And if you are a statewide organization, can you apply for funding for all your statewide offices, but also apply to be a regional lead in one of the regions where one of your offices are located?
Yes, that should be a possibility, and we can provide guidance about how to indicate that on the application in FAQ responses that we post on the website. If you are, in general, if you're applying to be a regional lead, one tip is if you're applying to be a regional lead for a particular region, we would encourage you to check all of the county boxes under that region on the application to indicate, that's the area that you are intending to cover. The question about being statewide and a regional lead and providing local services is a little bit more complex. So I think we can provide additional guidance on that in follow-up.
Great. Can you apply both as part of a regional lead and separately as a direct service provider? And the answer to that question is yes. And another question, are survivors of torture defined as victims of hate incidents or hate crimes?
That's a great question. I think we'll have to defer that one to follow-up responses on the website.
An organization states we meet the threshold. We meet the threshold eligibility requirements, but are a small nonprofit that does not yet conduct a required annual audit. May we submit unaudited financial reports, or are we excluded from consideration?
Another really good question. I think we'll have to follow up on that one.
Our organization has a 501c3 status, and it is also under contract mid next year with our fiscal sponsor agency. Given this information, do we apply using the information from our fiscal organization or our own information?
I'm not quite sure I understand the mechanics of that question. You already have 501c3 status. If you already have 501c3 status, I think you would be applying using your own status, but that may be one we need to address in more detail. So if you want to send a follow-up email to the HIU inbox, giving us a bit more explanation, I think we can probably provide a more responsive answer.
Okay, for regional leads, regranting 1 million, is that per year, in the past year, or is there a minimum threshold of number of years?
I think we'll follow up on that one as well. That'll probably be posted on the FAQ on the website.
Can individual organizations apply directly as well as get funds from the regional leads as regional leads own separate work plan? And I believe that may be a duplicative question on if the agencies can apply to be regional leads and service providers.
Yeah, if that's the case, then the answer is yes, but no organization is going to receive direct funding from CDSS under this service model if you are not a regional lead. So the service model is the only organizations directly receiving the funds from CDSS will be regional leads, and the program service providers will be sub-grantees of those regional leads. So unless you are applying to be a regional lead, then automatically, if you get funding, it will come through a regional lead, not directly from CDSS.
Another question, can fiscally sponsored groups apply if their fiscal sponsor is also applying for a different scope of work?
Excellent question. I think we can also address that one on the FAQs.
Do you have a sample program reporting form, not the invoice, so we can see the matrix that we will be required to track and report? Or will this be tailored for each organization based on their work plan? I think this is a good segue to state that we are going to be providing a secondary workshop once awardees are announced to give them more specifics in terms of the reporting and invoice requirements more in depth.
Yeah, and again, just to note, the only reports that will be coming directly to CDSS will be consolidated reports from the regional leads. So program service providers who are receiving subgrants from regional leads will be required to report to their regional leads. And then those organizations will consolidate those reports and submit to CDSS, submit an overall report from their region.
And it looks like a question, could you please share how the evaluation criteria weigh the priority of serving intersectional communities? Is there a priority for organizations that serve multiple targeted communities?
There is language about that within the RFA. I don't want to speak off the cuff right now. So if there's additional clarification that's required, we can certainly go back to the RFA and take a look at that and provide responses in FAQs if that's going to be helpful.
Looks like someone asked if you could reshare the ethnic focus slide, please.
Sure, the priority populations. And just to note, it's not just race or ethnicity. There are other priority populations here as well. So
Great.
sharing the slide again.
Okay, would Stop the Hate news coverage be eligible for applying for the funds?
I would say look at the direct services, prevention services, and intervention services, and you know, we would have to see if that falls within any of those. I also want to note that there is a separate RFA that's going to be issued. I don't know about the timeline, but there is a whole separate fund specifically to fund ethnic media that's being administered by the California State Library in conjunction with our Stop the Hate program efforts. So I would suspect that might be more responsive, but again, you know, don't want to exclude it if it would fall within those three service definitions: direct services, prevention services, or interventions.
And for those of us that are not required to have an audit because we are a smart organization, do we need an audit financial statement?
That was one question that was already asked, wasn't it?
That was similar to the previous question. Can you elaborate on the difference between organizational capacity and program capacity?
Yeah, I believe you can see in the questions on the application form itself, they're divided into organizational capacity and program capacity subheadings or sets of questions. So you'll see that in general, the program capacity the program capacity questions refer more to experience and ability to serve the particular priority populations, to deliver hate incident prevention, intervention, or direct services, whereas the organizational capacity, I think, refers more to you know, meeting reporting requirements, et cetera. But I would direct you to those questions in those subheadings so you can see the distinctions. As long as you're responding fully to all of the questions, you'll be covering all of the bases.
Okay. For geographically dispersed communities, would it be possible to submit a statewide application? I think that we've answered that question already as well. Number two,
I think we can follow up.
Yeah. Number two requirement is administering grants over 1 million. Does it have to be from California and also over 1 year? I think that was one of the follow-up questions, similar to the follow-up question we're going to be providing in the Q&A as well.
Yeah, and just a quick distinction there. So there is an or in there. So the 1 million amount does not have to be subgrants from the state of California. The 1 million amount could be any sort of subcontracts or subgrants. The 3-year requirement, I believe, refers to the state of California. But again, we can follow up and clarify that.
Okay. How is this program promoting a collaborative approach in a particular region?
Not totally sure how to answer that, but I would just reference the overall service model of regional leads and program service providers, and the regional structure. I'm not sure the intent behind the question, but if you want to follow up to the HIU inbox, you're welcome to elaborate on that, and we can see if we can help respond.
Great, and I think we have one more question. Apologies if I missed the answer to this, but if applying as a regional lead and service provider, does an applicant need to complete 2 applications?
No, that is a no. You complete only 1 application, but in your application, you will be indicating whether you are applying as a regional lead or a program service provider or both.
Great, thank you so much, Maureen. And everyone, there again, we attempted to get through as many questions as we possibly could. Know that we understand the grant application and grant vetting process can be complex. So therefore, please know we appreciate your continuous feedback throughout this process. Everyone that registered will receive access to today's application workshop survey. Will be sent to you via email. Thank you for your interest in the Stop the Hate Program Fund. Best of luck to all applicants that apply. Continue to stay encouraged, healthy, and have a safe upcoming holiday. And keep an eye out on the Stop the Hate Program Fund website for updates on Q&As that were received today, and we will provide additional responses too. Thank you so much.
Right, set out. Yeah, it's all wrinkled. That's okay. Yep. All right. You're covered. Be cold.